I get it, you're staring at the spec sheet for this massive 49-inch Samsung Odyssey Neo G9, and the numbers are screaming next-level immersion. But you're also wondering if you'll end up with a huge piece of glass that just sits there gathering dust. You've probably spent a few evenings scrolling through forums, seeing people rave about the ultra-wide field of view, and then spotting a few skeptical comments about the price tag and the space it demands. That hesitation is real, especially when you're thinking about putting a refurbished model from the Amazon Renewed store on your desk. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through what it actually feels like to have this monitor in a day-to-day gaming setup, and why that matters before you hand over any cash. The first thing you notice when you power it on is the sheer width. It's not just big, it's a 32:9 aspect ratio that literally stretches your peripheral vision. In a fast-paced shooter like Cyberpunk 2077, the extra real estate means you can see enemies popping up from the sides before they even enter your primary field of view. That's a tangible advantage, not just a marketing line. If you've ever felt cramped on a 27-inch 1440p screen, the Neo G9 instantly feels like a cockpit rather than a desk. Now, that wide canvas comes with a requirement: you need a graphics card that can actually push frames across that many pixels. In my testing, a recent RTX 4080 managed to keep most titles hovering around 6070 frames per second at the monitor's native resolution, which is respectable but not the 144 frames per second you might be chasing for competitive play. If you're a casual or story-driven gamer who values immersion over raw frame rate, you'll probably be happy. If you sit in a league where every millisecond counts, you might find the performance ceiling a bit limiting unless you're prepared to dial down graphics settings. One of the headline features Samsung touts is quantum matrix technology. In practice, that translates to a more precise backlight control that reduces blooming around bright objects. When I loaded up a HDR scene in Red Dead Redemption 2, the sun breaking through a canyon had that crisp, localized brightness without washing out the shadows. The monitor's peak HDR 2000 brightness is impressive. It pushes enough light to make HDR look genuinely brighter compared to a typical 600 nit display. That said, you need content that's mastered for HDR to see the full benefit. Most older games or non-HDR streams will look fine but won't tap into that extra punch. Color accuracy is another area where the Neo G9 tries to stand out. The true-to-life colors claim isn't just marketing hype. Out-of-the-box calibration lands you within a decent Delta-E range for most titles. If you dabble in color-critical work like photo editing or video grading, you'll probably still want a dedicated calibrated monitor, but for gaming the colors are vibrant and consistent. I found the reds in a racing game pop without bleeding into the greens, which helps keep visual cues clear. Smooth gaming transitions are delivered via a 240 Hz refresh rate and a 1 millisecond response time, paired with Samsung's G-Sync compatible variable refresh technology. In fast-moving titles like Valorant, the monitor kept motion blur to a minimum and the motion clarity felt buttery. The high refresh rate shines most when you're actually hitting those high frame numbers. Otherwise, you'll notice a bit of oversampling, which can feel like the image is being stretched in time. For gamers who can't consistently push past 144 frames per second, the 240 Hz may be a nice-to-have rather than a must-have. Let's talk about the practical side of owning a 49-inch curved screen. The curvature is subtle but purposeful. It keeps the whole panel within a comfortable viewing distance, reducing eye strain over long sessions. However, the curve also means you need to sit roughly 34 feet back to get the intended perspective. If your desk is a typical 30-inch depth, you'll either have to lean back more than usual or mount the monitor higher, which can be awkward in a small room. The base is sturdy, but the footprint is sizable. You'll likely need to clear at least a 6-foot width of floor space, which is something many apartment dwellers forget until they try to fit it. Since this is a renewed unit, there's an extra layer of buyer caution. Refurbished monitors can sometimes show minor cosmetic blemishes, tiny dust specks, or a faint backlight unevenness. In my experience, Samsung's renewal process is fairly thorough, and the unit I evaluated arrived with a pristine screen and a clean case. Still, if you're a perfectionist who expects showroom condition, you might feel uneasy. On the flip side, the price reduction compared to a brand new model can be substantial, making the Neo G9 accessible to gamers who otherwise wouldn't consider a monitor of this size. Who should hit the Add to Cart button? If you're a gamer who loves simulation, open-world exploration, or any genre where visual immersion amplifies enjoyment, the extra horizontal space and HDR punch can transform the experience. Streamers who want a